Welcome to the Sharpe Show. So happy to have you with me this evening. And yes, I am here 7 p.m., a little bit past on the East Coast. And I have had many different types of guests on this show. I have been doing this a year or two, a while. But today, I want to bring on someone who I think is very special, who's going through a lot of stuff that I have talked about in the past, who is having some, I'll say, legal concerns. I'll say it that way. Legal concerns that many of you will respect and see, and hopefully give you some insight into what happens in New York State when it comes to what we in New York State call the second suggestion, what everyone else calls the Second Amendment. For us in New York, it's a suggestion. We'd like you, and it could be a little bit different how we deal with it in New York. But I'm bringing on a Second Amendment enthusiast, is what I will call him, Dexter Taylor, a.k.a. Carbon Mike. How are you, sir?
Very well. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you having me.
Of course. Now, what my audience may or may not know, but one night when you were in your bed, a bunch of armed law enforcement agents stormed inside your apartment. Isn't that true?
One morning. Yeah, it was 6 or so in the morning, April 5th or 6th, 2022. Yeah.
There we go. Yes, that happened. So let me make sure if I know what happened. The second they came in and busted in, you immediately had 2 loaded, locked-loaded machine guns next to you. You picked them up and said, "You'll never take me alive, coppers!" And you started spraying the entire apartment complex. That's what happened, right?
Jesus Christ.
No?
Wait a minute.
That's not what happened?
I need a minute.
Okay, I just thought that's the criminal that we are concerned about, right? That's the kind of criminal that New York State would be concerned about, that they would kick somebody's door in and come in with a SWAT team. Is clearly somebody who would do that, right?
Yeah, one would think so. Yeah, but yes. That's actually not how it went down at all.
No.
Believe it or not, Larry.
That is weird. Okay. So
yeah, it's weird.
I'm a little bit shocked. Why in the world? Okay, I know now. I know what happened. Okay. So you, okay. In the past, you are a horrible gangbanger that has murdered multiple people. So that's why they were scared of you, because you are a known murderer who shoots people in the streets. That happened, right?
I have a squeaky clean criminal record. And in fact, no criminal record. I have 1 arrest for trespassing, which was over 30 years ago in Baltimore City. But aside from that, squeaky clean. In fact, the prosecutor in my case, Vinu can confirm this, my lawyer, said in writing that I should have asked I should have asked the state for permission to exercise my Second Amendment rights at home, quietly and privately, because I would have passed the good character test. So the guy who's prosecuting me said that Mr. Taylor would have passed the good character test. So that's wrong too. You got to try another one.
Oh, it's not that. Okay,
it's not that. No,
I got this. If it's not that,
okay.
Then let me tell you.
You got it. Okay, hit me.
Dexter, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Go for it.
You have sent multiple manifestos of how you're going to take the system down violently to all of the local governments, and you're basically expressed your contempt for all of them, and you're going to take them all out. That you've done.
Well, I do have a political manifesto, but it's a 10-point manifesto. Here's how it reads. Here's the 10-point manifesto. You ready? It's a fiery political manifesto.
That's what I got.
Are the kids in bed? Is it safe
they
to?
Are.
Okay.
Well, Joe, Joe's listening. Keep his ears closed. Go ahead. Keep going.
Here's my fiery political manifesto. See deeply, listen closely, reason honestly, speak clearly, act bravely, deny the self, defend the individual, respect tradition, face the present, cultivate the future. That's the Foundationist Manifesto. And I wrote that. So
That doesn't sound like you're taking down the system at all. Okay, all right, okay, then it's fine. Then it wasn't that.
Try another one.
You have sold to child traffickers weapons that they've used to move human trafficking people things. That
no, it's like not only did I kind of pursue my hobby quietly and privately in my own home. Not only did I not use any subterfuge, I bought legal parts online under my own name on my credit card. By the way, my Amex, after my stellar payment record, canceled my credit card summarily, my charge card. But not only did I not do any of those things, I never advertised weapons online. I never talked about it. I mean, my social media record is plain, right? I never talked about it. I never took pictures of my weapons and, bragged about doing gunsmithing. I never advertised gunsmithing services. I never evinced any intent to distribute weapons or sell them or otherwise disperse them. I made them for myself. And the state of New York should know this, because after I got raided, they seized my credit cards, which I still haven't returned. They seized my phone, and they seized my work computers, right? Well, my daily driver, my own computer and my work laptop. And they subpoenaed my email records. Gmail sent me a handy notice after the fact, after they complied with this thing. They said, hey, we had to give up your email records to the state because they were asking, right? So
the reason why I love this so much, and I know you're going through pain, brother. I know you are. But I want you to know that the story you're going to tell is going to open up a lot of eyes. And that's why I was so silly up front.
Yeah.
Because with most people, when they think about this, well, why would the cops raid some guy's house? Clearly, he must be a menace to society.
They hear SWAT
he must be an
team,
evil,
and it's like, yeah, it must.
Person.
That's right.
Yes, and that's the assumption.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
They show the guns, and they act like this guy has got to be somebody crazy or insane or something. And you have just shown that they just use this as another tool against somebody who was literally doing nothing wrong.
Correct. That's exactly correct.
Who was literally doing nothing wrong.
That's
and
correct.
This is what drives me crazy. And I hope more people see this, because their assumption is, oh, if the cops came, obviously he's a terrible guy doing terrible things. And now we know not only that, but they even admit it. But I got to go further, which what you just said.
Sure.
On top of it, you are accused of being this horrible person for some reason. So what did they do? They took away your privacy. They shut down your ability to do work. They shut down your ability to have credit so that you can move on your own. They took your rights away literally for years because they think you've done something bad and they can't find a victim.
Right. Right.
And that's the issue.
There is no victim. That's right.
Because there is no victim.
Right. That's correct. That's correct.
So
by the way,
destroyed. Go ahead, please.
Sorry. By the way, we're talking about New York City, right? New York State, right? This is a place where I just pulled up recently a video that Dana Loesch did about where she was talking about Kathy Hochul, right? And so-called bail reform, right? We had a number of people apparently who physically assaulted one or more police officers, right? And who didn't get any, they basically got out on their own recognizance, okay? And now they're in the wind, right? Now,
yes.
Right? You remember that? Okay. Now, by contrast, my bail, remember, I spent, when they came and arrested me, I got locked up like a gentleman. There was no screaming and cussing, anything like that. I had a great conversation with the cops in the car on the way to the jail, okay? I spent a week in Rikers Island, and my bail was almost $250,000. Okay?
So I want the audience to hear that. There was video of these people beating the cops. There was video of that. We saw the video.
You saw it?
There was video of them beating the cops. They got out. If you ask who's the victim, you could point to the two cops. There they are, right there.
There you go.
So there's the two victims. We see them. They're on video. They're your victims. They got out. Ask who was Dexter's victim? Nobody. And they sent you to, for those of you who don't know, the most violent jail in the entire country. And they made you stay there for a week in the most violent jail that we have in the United States of America, and I'm not making that up, that's a fact. That is how our system works right now. So for every one of you goes, well, gun laws are working. Are they? Gun laws are so important. Are they?
No. Gun laws are about public safety. No, they're not. No, this is not about public safety. But by the way, speaking of on-camera assaults, I mean, there was that adjunct professor at Hunter who assaulted a cameraman, right? Chased him down the street with a machete. This was in the Bronx. It was caught on a dash cam, right? I believe she got out the same day. I believe she traipsed into the precinct and traipsed right back out. Right? She assaulted a man with a deadly weapon on camera. Okay.
Yep.
So when people say that they're worried about public safety, they're either mistaken or they're lying. Okay. When they say it's the guns, they're either mistaken or they're lying. And I believe they're lying. They don't believe that. Right?
Yes.
They don't believe that. It is about control and it's about keeping people defenseless. That's what it's about.
Yes. And because the point I want to bring up here is you have shown that there is no victim, yet you were punished. And if you ask somebody in New York City, if you said, hey, I got a question for you. Do you think, your opinion, is possession of drugs a crime? In your opinion, not the law, in your opinion, do you think it's a crime? Most people go, nah, I mean, if you go, I bought my weed someplace, that's not really a crime. So possession is not really a crime? They would go, nah, it's not really a crime. So possession of something, it's now what if you steal to get the drugs? That's a crime, stealing, right? They will go, yeah, you shouldn't steal to get drugs. Stealing's a crime. Right, great, I got it. So the action's the crime. The possession isn't, right? What's the difference between that and guns? What's the difference?
Very well. Here's one difference I can think of. There is among people of a, how can I put this? Among people who have a totalitarian hyper-statist mentality, okay?
Most of New York. Go ahead.
There's a particular problem with people arming themselves, with people being armed. In other words, they don't want people to have. I mean, many progressives were delighted at the idea of legalizing weed. Let's be honest, right? And many anti-gun progressives, is what I'm trying to say. Many anti-2A progressives were delighted at the concept of people being able to buy drugs, right? This is something different. There's a quote from George Orwell, who I like a lot. I mean, he was a socialist, but nobody's perfect. And he said something to the effect of...
Hold on. Before you go there, I'm going to bring you a lawyer. And your lawyer has popped in.
Vanu's here. Cool.
The man, the myth, the legend himself, the man who I always say, the man who beat the IRS. And as libertarians, we love that. He becomes a hero by default.
Like this
so he beat the IRS.
Everyone likes that.
100%. Best lawyer in New York City. Best lawyer in New York City. Probably best lawyer in the country, goddammit. I don't care. The man himself, Vanu Varghese. How are you, sir? I can't hear you. I think you're...
Can't hear his audio.
I'm doing muted? Well, guys. How are you?
There we go. Good.
It's lovely.
So we are just talking about how...
This comes from my home. I think I did it once from my home before with you, Larry. But, it's good to see my man Dex, here. I've been trying to connect the two of you the last time we had something scheduled, and I couldn't do it. So I'm very happy to see Dexter, who is an unbelievable human being, with Larry, who's an unbelievable human being. And I mean, unbelievable in the best sense of the word, not unbelievable.
I like that. I do like that very much. Guys, if you like what you're seeing, do me a favor, click that like button. I know I bug you, but we're going to mess with my algorithms. I'm talking about 2A. So they're going to mess with my algorithms. So you're going to have to hit that like button. And if you don't hit the like button, that means you don't like me. I'm going to take it personally. I'm going to come to your house and something's going to happen. I can't say it right now because Ben will get mad at me. So I'm not going to say what I'm going to do. So all I'm saying is I'm coming to your house. Hit that like button, damn it. If you're watching on Twitter, I need you to retweet this right now. Just retweet it. You can get your chats to the front if you want to by super chatting me if you're on YouTube. You can do all of those things if you want to. But I want to go back to that idea of possession, Dexter.
Yes, sir.
This is the point, right? You brought up a very valid point. There are a lot of people who are anti-2A, but at the same time, they're going to tell you the biggest problem is white supremacy. The white supremacists are coming after you. They're going to get you tomorrow. They're going to beat you up. You're going to take you up.
They're going to lynch me from the nearest traffic light. They're outside. Listen,
light.
Larry, they're outside
Yes.
right now. They're disguised as rocks and trees and bushes, and they're waiting.
Well, I won't leave my house. I'm scared.
Exactly.
I won't leave it.
Scared, shook. Right.
Yes.
Exactly. Now, and these same people who say that insist that we should be disarmed. Don't you think that's odd? Right. Exactly.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. If they're out to get me, shouldn't I have a gun? I assume so. I remember there was a story. J.C. Watts was a senator out of Oklahoma years ago. He wrote a book. I forgot the name of the book, but I remember the book.
Yeah, former football player, right?
Yes, he was. That's correct. Yep. And he tells the story about his dad, who was a farmer in Oklahoma and used to wear overalls. And he said every day he watched his dad get up, put on his, eat his breakfast, put on his overalls, and put his 6-shooter pistol in his pocket before he went off to work. Because he was in Oklahoma. So he wanted to make sure if something went down. That was back then. That had to be the early 1900s, right?
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, they don't want us to defend ourselves. I completely agree with you. It is a terrible idea. It's horrible. Let me grab, if I could, just a couple of comments. I got a bunch of people commenting. I'm going to grab a couple if I can. Rob, I guess, is a buddy of yours. He says, God bless Carbon Mike. I like that. Very good.
Thanks, brother.
That's a good one. So you got some friends here. So that's good.
That's good.
Shelley says, our Queen Kathy has made the majority of the state a soft target.
Soft target, Kathy Hochul, yeah.
Yes.
Well, she's
exactly
enamored.
Correct.
She's enamored of the black codes. That's a certainty. She wants to bring those back, which is all very regular and official because she is part of the Democratic Party. So yeah.
And has been for decades. And people, all the bad things, she has been for decades. So yes. So Shelley goes on to say, character, which amendment is that?
Good point.
Yes. I don't remember the Second Amendment saying you have right to bear arms if we deem you to be of good character. I don't remember that part of the second. Vin, you're a lawyer. Is that in the law? The Constitution, the character part?
So it's not in the text of the Constitution, but it's certainly been interpreted that way by courts.
Yes, it has.
Even the U.S. Supreme Court in the Bruin decision did say that it's limited to this case, and it did not make a larger scale decision on whether states can regulate it. In fact, there really is no disagreement, even at the top of the U.S. Supreme Court, even with what so-called conservative majority, that states still have the ability to regulate. They just have to be reasonable regulations and ones that don't infringe upon the Second Amendment.
But what happens, right? And I guess this is the whole case, and you can tell me what you think is the issue here. Generally speaking, most of New York State's gun laws have been said by the Supreme Court to be bogus, right? Maybe I'm exaggerating most, but I want it to be most. A lot of the recent ones, at least, have been said that the Supreme Court has said they're basically unconstitutional. Why or does that matter? Is that a thing? I mean, I feel like if the Supreme Court said so, then the New York State judge will go, okay, Supreme Court says so, so these laws are now null and void. Clearly, I am wrong on this.
Yeah, so what the Supreme Court said 2 years ago and about a month after Dexter's arrest was that the licensing regime in New York State violated the Second Amendment. Basically, the way it was applied, and it was basically you weren't going to get it. So then what did Kathy Hochul and everyone else, Mayor Adams and everyone else do? Was called the decision irresponsible. I mean, it was just, it was just.
Oh, I didn't know that if you insult judges, then it's null and void.
Yeah, so
that's how it works.
So you can just insult the judge and you can ignore them? Yeah, what New York State did was basically repackage the same laws. And as it turned out, well, let me speak from a legal point of view about your question about New York State judges. So what these judges do is they have a playbook. So somebody writes a playbook for these judges. So judges all across the state have to toe the party line. I mean, the idea of judicial independence is a joke. And so, and I know people are out there to get me for saying things like this. So, New York State, you and I, Larry, have talked about this, and I are not the best of friends, right? And so, Dexter, your case does not make me any more of a friend to the New York State judicial system. And what has happened is that they're given what's called a bench brief. So the term is somebody writes a stock response, and they were actually clever. And what they did was they started denying what they knew was going to come about this, was start denying all these cases on the ground of standing. That the defendant did not have standing. So standing just means the ability to challenge a law. So they said they didn't have standing because they did not apply for a gun license. In fact,
so to be clear, if New York State decides to bring back slavery, they do that tomorrow. Unless you're a slave, you can't challenge that law because you don't have standing, right? If you were a slave, then you could challenge the law because I'm a slave. But if I'm not a slave, I don't have any standing. So I can't. So I guess slavery would be okay then. Is that how that works?
So Dexter, this is why I love Larry. This is why I've been working with Larry. He comes in and consults on multiple cases of ours over the last dozen plus years, almost 15 years. And he just has a way of narrowing down what the law means to it. I'm not sure, Larry, on that one, but it may be, actually the way you phrase it may be correct. I mean, the issue is that they didn't apply for a license. Right. So this is interesting. And that's why Dexter's case is unique. I've spoken to the head of appeals at Legal Aid. And Dexter, you should know that your case is the only one that has challenged Bruin or challenged the licensing regime from the get-go. So because they had this brief that they were all given and they're basically the same reaction, well, you can't challenge it on Second Amendment grounds because you never applied for a license. In fact, in September, 4 cases went before the New York's version of the United States Supreme Court. So for your viewers that understand, states and the federal system run parallel to each other. And they are actually equal to each other, except on issues of federal law. So on issues of federal law, the U.S. government, the United States Supreme Court can tell a state court what to do. But if it's a purely a matter of state law, they can't tell them what to do, right? The U.S. Supreme Court doesn't have power over New York State Court. So what they did was, and it was they rejected all these cases. There's 7 justices on the New York State Court of Appeals, which is the highest court in New York, sits in Albany.
Right.
And 6 of them voted on standing grounds or voted to deny these 4 cases. Right. Only Justice Jenny Rivera, who actually is considered a big liberal, was the one who wrote in a dissenting opinion or a concurring opinion that, hey, we should start listening to Bruin, right? We're gonna be dealing with this. We better get with it.
I like that.
So that's a positive sign that at least one of them, the fact that 6 out of 7 of them didn't. But why this is important is because in Dexter's case, to defeat the idea or defeat the standing argument, we went and got statistics from the NYPD. So we were able to do through a Freedom of Information Act request. We were able to. It took 9 months or so for the NYPD to respond, and they only did when we showed up at their door. We're like, "Hey guys,
of course,
from a couple months ago." And so we were able to get those numbers, and it showed. And this is also the amazing thing about Dexter, and he being who he is, and why he's uniquely situated, or he's a unique person to challenge this, because Dexter, being the engineer, was able to convert that raw data into numbers and actual percentages. So we learned in the 2 years that Dexter had gotten the parts that the NYPD only granted in 21 and 22, 19 and 4%. Did I get the years right, Dexter? I know you know our brief. We wrote the brief. I know you know it word by word better than I do. You know?
But this is what New York State has done more than once. It retroactively makes people criminals.
I just want to tell you, just finish. I know it's a little bit long, but the point is that we showed that it wouldn't have mattered. So there's law out there that says if it would be futile or useless to even attempt to try to get a license, well, then you don't have to try and you get standing anyway. So now we've shown the data, and the DA didn't dispute our data. They just said we don't necessarily accept it. That's not disputing it. That's not, look, our own engineer got it. The calculations are wrong. Dexter made his.
So I want to be clear for the audience. What you're saying is if they set up a system that basically makes it impossible, but there is a system, it's just impossible, then because it's clearly impossible, it doesn't matter. You don't have to go through it. So they basically said, if you want to drive a car, you have to be 9 feet tall. Then you can drive a car. It's going to be 9 feet tall. We're not stopping anybody. If you're 9 feet tall, you can go ahead and do it. Well, there are no humans currently who are 9 feet tall on the planet. So therefore, no one can get a license. So therefore, it is by default bad. We don't have to apply. Is that kind of where you're going with that?
Yeah. So I love the analogies, Dexter. You know, we're going to be talking to Larry as we go to trial. So,
except that driving is a privilege, whereas bearing arms is a right. I'll just interject there.
Well,
but yeah,
you're on the right path. Basically, the law, and this is again judge-driven law. It's not statutes or anything like that.
Yep.
But there's a law out there by judges that say that if it's if you can't get a license, they make it too hard for you to get a license. You don't have to have applied. And I heard you speaking earlier when I was waiting to come on, talking about, I think Dexter, you mentioned it, that the good moral character. So one of the things the DA said is, well, Dexter, could have gotten a license because he didn't have a record. He's of the good moral character. And so that's an interesting comeback on their part,
Well, but they have to say that because they have to show they're more worried about validating their system than themselves. So they must validate the system. See, the system's fair. In which case, my response then is, awesome, then why'd you arrest him?
Correct.
Awesome, then why'd you break his door down? Awesome, then why'd you come in with guns? If he was such a moral character, why didn't you just ask him to come on in? Why didn't you just, hey, can you get your attorney and come in and we'll talk about
Larry, you and I do very well know that they don't do it that way.
They don't do it that way.
But you know what I'm saying, right?
Right.
And I'm trying to say this because I want the audience to hear that and recognize that the government had an option. If the government believes that you were that good, they had a choice. They could have just called you up and said, hey, Dexter, we're scared. Do me a favor. You want to get a lawyer? Go ahead. Come on in. We want to talk to you. That was a choice they could have made. They could have asked you to come in. They could have asked for a chat. There were many options. They just knocked on your door and said, hey, can we talk for a moment? There were many choices they could have made. They didn't. They chose SWAT team, kick door in.
Larry,
that's what they chose.
Yeah. It's funny. I was having a discussion about this with a friend of mine who is not as pro 2A as I am, right? And they were making she was making the argument that, well, it makes sense that they're worried that if someone's building guns at home, that's scary and that's that. And I said, well, look, I'm not asking you to be a 2A absolutist or even an advocate, but I'm saying the state of New York has vast investigative powers, right?
100%.
So if they really thought that I were a threat to public safety, right, they had any number of options short of breaking my door down and carting me off to Rikers to either put their fears to rest or whatever, right? I mean, they could have said, well, they could look. They subpoenaed my email records after I was arrested. They could have done that before. They could have said, hey, is this guy talking about trafficking weapons online? Is this guy advertising gunsmithing services or trying to distribute? They could have called. I mean, they didn't. It's not hard to get AT&T to give up the phone records. Is 100%. This guy talking to people about transferring weapons and this and that? Right. They didn't do any of that because it's not about that. It's not about that. Correct.
It's about fear and scaring and showing the guns on TV.
Correct.
And that's what it's all about. They want to do, and more importantly, you got a lot of SWAT team. That costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And how am I going to make my budget if I don't start breaking people's doors down, right? Mm-hmm. One thing that a government will always find is a reason to kick in doors. Guaranteed. They will always, because they got to pay for SWAT teams. So there got to be a reason to kick in doors. They will always do that. And people laugh at me when I say these things. They go, Larry, no. Dexter, you are such a great example because I want to go back just real fast if I could. Why did this even start? You weren't like some two-way guy who was like, you were like a Civil War reenactor who wanted to make new guns. You weren't that guy. This was a hobby of yours, wasn't it?
That's correct. I thought it was going to be my second career. My plan. And, I was never, listen, I didn't get, again, my receipts are in the open, right? So you can go and look. I was never one of these Gadsden flag guys. Nothing against the Gadsden flag necessarily, but I'm just saying.
Gadsden people, they're watching right now.
Yeah, exactly. They're watching right now. It's all right, fellas. Come on now. But, I was never, like, that wasn't the energy I was bringing to things. Again, you can go look at the Foundationist Manifesto. You can go look at the people I talked with online, the people I interviewed, the people I did podcasts with. I wasn't even talking about national divorce. I think that's a dumb idea. I was talking about here's how we can fix our country by, adhering to these certain mental disciplines that will let us have higher quality arguments about things. I've done a ton of spaces and a ton of podcasts and a ton of online content about this stuff. So no, I never brought that kind of energy that a reasonable person who again is not pro 2A might have said, hey, should someone take his guns? Do you know what I'm saying? Right. It's like it wasn't like that. So we have to understand that this is about control. I was about to quote
hold on. Thing. Joe says the police are there to serve and protect, right?
Protect, right? Yeah, serve and protect. Yeah, they serve. No. They serve something.
They weren't protecting anybody, that's for sure.
No. No.
Quote, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Yes, that's okay. That's okay. Well, yeah, George Orwell, who again was a socialist, but nobody's perfect. He said something to the effect that the totalitarian nations of the world can do great things, or a great many things, but one thing they cannot do is give a working man a rifle and tell him to take it home and keep it there, right? And so this is why progressives, for example, who seem to have no problem with controlled substances and all the rest of that business, they're delighted to give people weed and all that stuff, right?
Yep.
They're terrified at the thought of an armed citizenry,
100%.
because again, privileges are one thing. I tweeted something not long ago that said, listen, if I have to ask permission in order to exercise a right, that is not a right. It's now a privilege. And the problem with privileges is they can be taken, if the state gives you a privilege, they can take it back, right?
George Carlin said that 30 years ago. Yep.
Right, there you go. So, but this is not a privilege. I'm not asking permission, right? It's like, no, this is my right, right?
Yeah, but the problem I want to bring up, and I want the audience to understand this, you didn't go on the black market, right? You bought this on your credit card.
All above board.
All above board.
Correct.
You bought everything that was the way it was supposed to be. You weren't hiding anything, whatever. You were like,
Not at all.
I want to become a gunsmith. And someone's asking, Liberty or Death asks, where in New York City this happened? This was Brooklyn,
New York. Brooklyn, New York. Yes, sir.
Brooklyn,
That's
New
right.
York.
And by the way, I just want to add, not only was I above board, I had actually signed up, and the records will show this. I had subscribed to Rocket FFL, right? Because I wanted to learn how to file the paperwork so I could eventually do this kind of thing commercially. Okay.
Now, I was a member. What the FFL is. Let them know.
Pardon me? Oh yeah, sorry. FFL means federal firearms license, and it also is a shorthand for a federal firearms licensee. So if you buy a completed weapon online, okay, they don't send it to you. Typically what happens is you will register with your nearest FFL, and then they'll coordinate between themselves, and the background check will get done that way. Pro tip, there is always a background check, right? And it's always federal, right? And then the manufacturer will send the weapon to your FFL and you'll pick it up there, okay? Yep. So the FFL is the licensee, but the FFL is also the paperwork, the actual license. And then if you want to do more specialized weapons, more esoteric weapons, fully automatic weapons, for example, you have to get a special kind of certificate called a special occupational taxpayer, I believe it's an SOT, right? And there are several categories. I mean, it's complicated, which is why I signed up for Rocket FFL. I said, okay, what am I going to have to do? Not only did I do that, but I was also a member in good standing of my local gun range at the time I was raided. So I had passed the criminal background check. This is also something the state could have known.
But hold on,
right?
So you go to the gun range, I assume, once in a while, right?
Yeah, well, not anymore, but yeah, I used to. I don't want to. I stopped going after I got raided because I'm like, I don't want to get them into.
I'm sorry. Prior to prior
to the raid, yes.
For absolute reason, used to go there, right?
Yes, exactly.
So they could have just waited for you there, couldn't they?
They could have, yeah.
That was another option they had. They could have just waited for you there. There was literally no reason to kick your door in except to kick your door in.
That's
and
correct.
I want to make sure that everyone listening understands that.
That's
there was
correct.
This is literally Waco.
That's correct. Well, it's better than Waco or worse than Waco because it's like I'm not a degenerate like David Koresh, right? Like I'm an upstanding citizen. I'm a family man, and right.
Yeah. But he used to go running every day.
Oh yeah, they could have waited.
Just grabbed him while he was running and got him versus burning down the entire place. But they wanted to burn down the place because the ATF has got to be cool and got to show why they're spending money.
Got to be tactical. Yeah. They got to be tactical.
Absolutely. They have to, 100%. And I want to make sure that's true because they're trying to make you a bad guy when literally nothing you have said, nothing.
Yes, sir.
And I grilled you.
Yes, sir.
Nothing you have said has shown that you're a bad guy. There is no victim. They can't find a victim anywhere.
No.
And the only thing they've done is saying, let's see, this guy followed the law above the board, showed no intent to harm anyone, and they kicked in his door and punished him because they wanted to make an example of him. And now he has to be and they sent him again to the most violent jail in the entire country. I want people to know this. I want them to understand how wrong this is. And if you believe it's as wrong as I believe it is, I want you to head over to his GiveSendGo.com account. And I want you to give so he can get some money so he can pay for all the stuff he has to pay for. This is a battle that is insane. This is a battle that is costing him his freedom, his ability to make money. Every one of you out there who's a two-way supporter, I know many of you are. I need you right now. GiveSendGo.com. The link's right there. Throw him a couple bucks. He needs some money. I'm going to do it myself tonight too. I'm not just having you guys. You will see my name there too. So I'm going to do it also. But I want you to do it. It's important to do it. I say all the time, the Second Amendment. People get mad at me. They go, Larry, you don't talk about the Second Amendment. It's about the Constitution. Because no one gives a shit about the Constitution up here in New York State. That's why they don't care. I talk about the actual wrongness and the damage these laws do, particularly to young black men, right? Dexter ain't so young. He's like my age. But still, it's fine. Still getting their ass kicked by the government for no reason. People who are creating no victims. This is important. I'm sorry, Ben. I just want to make sure people got what I was saying. Go ahead, Ben, please.
Yes, sir.
So I want to add a couple things. One of the charges they hit him with is that possession with intent to use unlawfully. So they're saying by the very fact that he has this gun, that he's built these guns, that he intended to use unlawfully. And that's a stretch. We actually challenged that specific statute. But there's another thing going on here that Dexter doesn't even know yet. Dexter, there's been some developments in your case this week. So I'm about to what better place right here than to tell you on live TV. I don't think you're going to be disappointed in this. Number one, the people are not going to be ready on Tuesday. And so they asked, we just got this. I've been trying to get Dexter, but he's so busy. He's on Larry Sharpe show. I can't get a hold of my own client.
I'm moving and shaking. Listen, what are you going to do? I'm moving and shaking.
So that's actually good because we need we need the additional time.
Yes.
But there's something else that's going on here. So when you look at this picture in the screen, which I'm looking down at, I have the camera slightly above, but I'm looking down at the three of us, and I'm looking at Dexter right there in the center. And I was looking at some of the comments, and one of them said, clearly Dexter's a white supremacist, right? And whoever said that,
it's clearly true. Of course it is.
I'm just looking at it. Whoever said that is great.
I got to follow that guy on Twitter.
Yes, absolutely.
So the point about that is that right from the get-go, I said this isn't a good case, a good look for the DA's office.
Correct.
Right? Because when Dexter got arrested, there was an article in the Daily News about it, and the DA, who I know personally, I used to work with him back almost 25 years ago. He came out and said the scourge of ghost guns must be combated, and I got very angry, and I told the Daily News reporter, and he printed my quote, that it's actually it's improper to equate Dexter with, or to say that he's some gangbanger. He's not. He's the opposite of that, right? He went to Stuyvesant High School, then he went to Johns Hopkins for 3 years, and then a la Mark Zuckerberg dropped out to Zuckerberg
getting the computers,
dropped out to do bigger and better things.
That
But
was
the
your
point
problem.
is this is the second development, my friend, which I'm announcing on national TV. The prosecutor on the case had been this very decent human being, very respectful. He's just doing his job, and he's his marching orders. Look, he's a soldier. He's not. I can empathize with him. He's a smart guy. He's actually a smart guy. I liked litigating against him because, unfortunately, a lot of times when you deal with state prosecutors, especially when they're younger, they tend to be very immature, right? Because they're right out of law school. They don't have life experience, and then all of a sudden,
do you think this guy is that?
Huh?
You think this guy is that?
No. This guy was
definitely.
actually very, responsible, very respectful.
Okay.
We had a good dialogue. I tried to work out something where we could potentially, you ready for this? Agree that under the current law, Dexter's guilty. But the statute is unconstitutional, and that we preserve the right to challenge the constitutionality of the statute on appeal. They didn't agree. And I said, the only way we're going to work out a deal is if Dexter is also allowed to be out pending appeal, right? They didn't agree to that. And
so hold on. I want the audience to understand this for a second. I want the audience to get what's going on here. What they're saying is they were talking about the idea. This was a conversation. Hey,
I brought it up with them.
We will agree that with this current law, he's guilty. That's true with this current law. But the law is a bogus law. So we want to be able to challenge this law. And I don't want Dexter to go to jail while we're taking who knows how long, 1 year, 2 years, 3, whatever it takes to challenge this law.
8 years was the last offer.
8 years was the last of, and I've turned him down flat, obviously. Yeah.
There we go. Right. Whatever. We don't want him going to jail for this time while we're challenging this law. And what you're saying is they said no to that.
Correct.
And what the audience understand that. Go ahead.
And this goes back to the comment about Dexter being a white supremacist. Was Dave Chappelle's character.
Clayton Bixby. Clayton Bixby.
That's clearly Dexter there. But anyway, this week, and I am almost hesitant to say this, and Dexter, I haven't talked to you about this yet. That prosecutor, who I thought was, he's doing his job, he's honorably smart, he's very respectful, because I see a lot of DAs playing dirty, hiding things, and he wasn't that at all.
Yep. And
his boss, I know him as an honorable guy, his direct supervisor.
So why
we had some discussions to try to it clearly, because they're not making the call, right? And there's clearly a lot of people looking at Dexter's case. So what do, right? Because you have on one side Dexter from Brooklyn with his skin tone. You've got me with my skin tone. So on the other side is a white prosecutor.
Yep.
What do they do this week, Dexter? I'm telling you on national thing.
Oh, wait a minute.
They switched the prosecutor to a black prosecutor.
Wow.
Yeah, this has happened to me. I've been in practice for 25 years, and this has happened to me whenever I have a minority defendant, which is roughly half the time. Most half the time I'm representing white people, and then the other half the time representing people of all different colors and things. As the case gets closer to trial, all of a sudden there are minorities on the
matching skin tone all of a sudden.
Right. There's
matching skin tone all of a sudden.
Completely. I had a big federal securities fraud case where my client was brown. All of a sudden the lead prosecutor became a brown attorney. Right.
There we go.
I had a case in Brooklyn. This is more than a decade ago, and you know about this. Michael Turner, Larry, because Larry was involved in representing a young black kid who was charged with attempted murder. The alleged victim was a white guy, white prosecutor for a year and a half. We get to trial. They put on the senior black prosecutor from the Homicide Bureau, and it wasn't a homicide case, right? It was an attempted homicide, but whatever.
No, it was a skin color case. This is what it was. Perfect.
It's not just the state; it's the feds. So we have a new ADA that's going to be trying the case.
There we go.
I'm sure they'll have a team. Don't get me wrong.
Let me grab an important comment here. Juan says, as a fellow data engineer and two-way supporter, I just donated to your defense fund. It was quick and easy. Good luck, my friend. There we go.
Cool.
Other people.
Right.
Copy Juan. Juan is right. Copy Juan. Do as Juan says. He is correct. Do as Juan says.
God bless Juan.
That is absolutely correct. Yes,
yeah, this
absolutely.
is just to touch on something Venu said before, because Juan mentioned being a data engineer. Like, that's what I am. And data engineering is a specialized subdiscipline of software engineering. I've been in the software industry for, actually, it's 30 years this year. And so when Venu and them FOIA'd the information from NYPD slow walked it forever. When they finally gave us the information, it was not in a form that was easy for them to derive insights from. So I built a data stack. I built a data processing stack, spun up a database, and processed that data through so that we could get the insights we needed. All that code is open source. So to Venu's point about the prosecution saying, because I read their response and said, well, Dexter isn't a professional something or other. It's like, well, yes, I am. But don't take my word for it, right? I believe in reproducibility. So you can go to GitHub. My GitHub ID is Binary Machines, and the code repository where all that code is called Lex. So you can go to the Binary Machines GitHub. You can download Lex. You can spin up the database yourself. It should be very easy. There's a run book there. It's very simple to get it up and running, and see for yourself. So yeah,
there we go. NY Liberty says there was a guy up here about 15 years ago, like Taylor, though he had his FFL, so he could sell his services. The guy got technically raided over trading some gunsmithing for a bunch of joints. I guess he traded doing some gunsmithing for some weed, so they raided him. Yeah, wow. There we go. There we go. Yeah. He was out in the morning getting groceries, if I recall. And they waited to move in for a setup after they knew he was home. There we go. Yes. So he was out getting groceries. They didn't get him. They waited till he got home so they could raid it. Exactly right. Yeah. This raid is what matters, right?
Yeah, they like the raid.
That's the big issue.
They like the raid.
Ken says, I'm glad Dexter is here to talk about it and wasn't one of those killed by police because he was in possession of a firearm. Or someone said he was in possession of a firearm. Yes, right? They shoot first, ask questions later, then you happen to find a gun in your hand. Yeah, that kind of thing. Absolutely.
Well, you know what's funny is the morning of the raid. I've told the story a few times, but the morning of the raid, usually I go to bed listening to an audiobook, right? So I was listening to this audiobook, and I think it was Orthodoxy by G.K. Chesterton. Anyway, I woke up and I heard voices that obviously weren't the audiobook, And then I heard a bang, and I heard those voices much louder. And I heard that kind of traditional, kind of dynamic entry SWAT team cadence, right? Right. And the first thing I said was, hello, hello, hello. My name is Dexter Taylor. I live here. Who are you guys looking for? Because, it was on. I saw the weapon lights flickering back and forth underneath my bedroom door. So I was like...
So you thought it was a mistake?
Yeah, I was like, hello, good morning. You know what I'm saying? Okay. My name is Dexter. Right before I even got out of bed, I just heard that. I was like, hey, guys, I live here. Who are you looking for? And they were like, no, we're here for you. I was like, okay. So I decided to play it cool in that moment, look, to their credit, they played it cool too, and it was all lovely. But that's what happened. Yeah.
Wow. It was Tim O'Connor. I have to say that Dexter is obviously a white supremacist. How could you not see that?
Yes.
Well done, Tim O'Connor.
Yes. Well played, sir. You know what I'm saying?
But I want people to understand the repercussion that we talked about. What you were doing. You were just being a gunsmith. It was a hobby you were doing. You were doing everything above board. They did this. So now, for having this hobby that New York State has deemed evil because New York State has deemed it so, what consequences are you actually facing? Is this something where you're really going to do jail time? Is this something where you could go to jail forever? Something you could get off? What are some of the consequences that you could get from this?
Well, I'm Nuts. Do you want to go first, Venu? Go ahead.
Yeah, Larry, he's facing a lot of years. The calculation, some of these can be hit consecutively. So you have 18 year sentence. It's When you add things, it actually surpasses. Potentially, it could surpass it. But in any event, they made an offer of 8 years.
Hold on. So you're saying it's possible that he could do over 20 years. Is that possible?
I'd have to look at the numbers. 18 is a number that they said in court, but there's still a possibility before we get to trial, they could supersede, add charges, and it could end up being higher.
So I want the audience to understand this. There is no victim. There is clearly no intent, and there is clearly no
not according
action.
To the DA. Not according to the DA.
Well, the DA. Okay, well, let me explain that difference. How that works. How the world works. If you have a gun, you're a bad guy. That's how that works.
According to
you have a gun, you're a bad guy because you have a gun. Now, there's an exception. If you happen to also have a badge, you are now perfect. So that's how that works. You go from bad guy to perfect.
Perfect guy.
You have a badge.
That's
correct. Sadly, Dexter does not have a badge.
Well, it depends on who on the left you speak to. So that's
true. It's correct. Right. Yes, correct. Yes. So in any case, you're a bad guy. But for the average person, no intent, nothing. And he faces 20 possible years from the state. How can anyone tell me that the gun laws of New York State are fair, are good, are just, are anything except horrible and punitive and unfair in New York State? I just want to make sure that was clear, Vin. Please keep going.
So part of the issue,
Tim says you're his new lawyer. Yes.
So part of the issue here is that hold on. I got to tell my boys here to stop making so much noise in the background. All right. Can you guys use the other room, please?
Don't get in trouble now.
Yeah. Anyway, part of the issue here for us is New York State is what it is. So we filed the motions to dismiss. The judge has already ruled against us, which we knew. I tried to give her, by the way, we've gone through a couple judges because the first one was treating Dexter like a total piece of shit. And I called her out, right? I've had problems with this judge, Phyllis Chu. I called her out in papers publicly. And then she did a smart thing, which is she quietly recused herself.
There we go. I like that. That's good.
She didn't say, oh, I'm going to recuse, because I actually told her straight up in writing that she's biased. And so then she recused herself without saying she recused herself. It got transferred to another judge. Mm-hmm. And we're in front of this judge who has just as pleasant a disposition as Phyllis Chu did, right? She seems to, and again, this is the problem which you have, right? So the first judge, Phyllis Chu, I knew her because she was in the DA's office with me, right? She was senior to me in the DA's office. So you have all these people who've gone from either the district attorney's office and become prosecutors, and they continue to wear their DA badge secretly under their robe, right?
What did you call it? You told me this. You call it the prosecutor to judge pipeline?
Yes. We've talked about that on one of your previous shows.
The judge pipeline.
Here's the thing. The new judge, and this is also a thing because, over the last 10 years or so, there's been a push to get more public defenders into the thing. Now, you think that's good. Often these are actually worse than the former DAs. A lot of these former DAs are actually, they look at things and go, you know what? They're obviously they're ones who are still wearing their badge and hiding it under their robe. But then there's a good decent amount of them who are like, you know what? I would never have done this as a prosecutor. I'm going to scrutinize the DA's office in a way that's more the way that I would think a DA should be. Then there's the public defenders.
So let me get back to Dexter, though.
Judge Cesare, right? Who are like...
I want to get back to Dexter, though, here. I want to get back to Dexter.
No, but what I'm saying is this new judge, give me a second. This new judge is coming in with this attitude and treating Dexter like he's a gangbanger. And I had to call her out because she was being rude. And then she made this comment to me. And again, she's a former public defender her whole career before she went into it, and doesn't understand a guy like Dexter, who's a private citizen,
right?
Who doesn't have a court-appointed attorney, that, you know what, this guy's got to work. You can't just dick us around and tell us that we're going to have to show up at court at 10:30 and then say, oh, I'm busy right now. She gave us, quote unquote, a time certain. And it's just like rude shit.
Yes.
Of course she rules against us.
To care. Yes. Yeah.
But the question, your original question was, he's going to have to lose. If we lose the trial, I think we can win this trial. But, that strategy I won't talk about online because they're watching.
Probably smart.
Right.
But Larry and I, you and I and Dexter will talk offline. But if we lose, and this is what makes Dexter a hero in my book, he's willing to lose and understand that we're not going to win in New York State. We're going to lose at the intermediate appellate court, so the appellate court that sits over, which is also in Brooklyn, and then we're going to lose in Albany. And then only then you have to go up the state chain before you can go across the street to Cadman Plaza and file what's called a federal habeas. And then we can actually get respect for the Second Amendment. But he may, unfortunately, have to sit in prison, potentially for a couple of years.
Correct.
This is something I want to ask. I want to ask this question. You tell me if this makes sense. As a layman, I know everyone believes this, so you're going to help me if it's real or not. If someone looks at him and says, okay, wait, he's appealing. He's not a gangbanger. He's got no violent tendencies. He's got nothing. He's a nothing bad. Won't a judge go, hey, I don't have to put you in jail. You're not a threat to anybody. So why would I do that? Now, I know I'm joking.
The process is the punishment. The process is the punishment. I can speak to that.
Minimums. So
there's mandatory minimums as well, right?
Charge, unless the DA dismisses that top charge, there's a mandatory minimum on there of 5 years. So the DA could dismiss everything, leave the top charge, and then the judge offer him 5 years. Say, hey, you plead guilty, you'll take 5 years. The DA offered 8. So. But to be clear, the problem is you plead guilty unless you get a specific waiver, which they wouldn't agree to. You can't challenge the constitutionality.
Right. If you plead guilty, you lose your right to appeal. Correct.
So I want to be clear about it so people understand that. If you plead guilty to avoid jail for a bad law, you still have to go to jail, and now you can't even appeal the bad law.
Yeah. So on certain things,
but I thought you had to have standing. So if you need to have standing, shouldn't you go to jail for the law, which would give you standing, and in which case you should be able to challenge the law?
Larry, there's no easy answer to what you're asking.
I know. I'm purposely being that way.
Let's just say no.
I mean, my easy answer is that the game is rigged. Like, it's rigged.
Yes.
In other words, it is rigged to keep these laws in place, right? In other words, no sane person, right, would take all those risks, right? And so this way they can get away with essentially violating the highest law of the land and say, well, what's the problem? No one challenged it. It's fine. So this is an example. This is an example of might makes right. They're doing this because they can, and they're doing this because they think they can get away with it. Now, short of actually fighting the case all the way through, the next best option for us is for a critical mass of people to start paying attention. The optics of this case are terrible for New York State. Okay, like you can see this. But like, I am not the guy they really want to be trying to prosecute, especially in an election year, especially given that Letitia James is the AG of New York State. Now, I'm not MAGA, but there's an awful lot of MAGA 2A people out there, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's why I've been working. Why it's been hard for Venu to get in contact with me, because I've been working my social media contacts. I mean, I don't have a very large circle.
You have court on Tuesday morning. Don't forget that. All right.
Well, I remember. I remember. It's on my calendar. Listen, I've met. I've met. Listen to me.
America, Judge.
I have been to. I've never missed a court date. Right, and I don't intend to start now. Okay,
absolutely.
but what I'm saying is that's why I have been working the contacts like this, and I'm trying to get conservatives, for example, to pay attention to this. And I'll say something else, because a lot of people, and one reason I'm not very you could say I'm not very big in conservative circles. I don't subscribe to many of the talking points that many prominent conservatives subscribe to. I don't believe in retreat. Don't
go down that road.
I don't believe in.
Dexter, I agree with Larry. Let's just.
I don't believe. No, wait a minute. Let me say my piece. I don't believe in writing off segments of. Excuse me. I don't believe in writing off segments of this republic. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when I talk about the talking points, you have to let me say my piece. I'm not. Trust me, I know what's going on. But what I'm saying is, just listen. Okay.
Go ahead, do your thing.
New York City is an American city. Mm-hmm. Chicago is an American city. Los Angeles is an American city. San Francisco is an American city. The reason conservatives keep losing is that they insist on writing off huge swaths of this republic and then still being able to and think that's a good fighting position, as opposed to liberals and progressives who have never written off anything. When's the last time you saw a socialist or a communist say that's too conservative to fight for? I'm going to leave them alone. No. So the one reason, right, why I think my case hasn't drawn more attention, and let's be clear, when I started doing this thing, I wasn't trying to draw attention. I didn't want to get into a pissing contest with New York State. Why would I? It make no sense. I wanted to sit at home and quietly do my thing and eventually buy my land in New Hampshire and go start my gun lab and do everything above board. So get it out of your head, everyone who's listening.
My libertarians now love you now.
So get it out of your head that I had some plan to be a two-way activist. It's not about that. I'm not interested in being an activist, right? And I never have been, and I'm not now. And if I could snap my fingers and make this go away now, I would. What I'm trying to say is that one reason why we are not getting as much attention as we might otherwise is because many conservatives, many two-way advocates have adopted a habit of writing off what happens in cities.
Let me jump on board with that. This is a fact. Okay. I'm going to jump on. I'm with you. I am with you. I always say it all the time. When I ran for governor twice, and I'm obviously, I am a two-way activist. I am. Yes, sir. And I immediately said that I am. So I go out talking about it all the time. And I don't talk about it very much.
Larry too.
Thank you. So I actually, when I go up to upstate, I don't talk that much about guns here or there. People ask me about it. And they say, how come you're not pushing the Second Amendment? I said, because when I'm out here in Wyoming County, I'm preaching to the choir. Right. You guys are already there. But I talk about gun laws when I'm in the city. That's what I do. And that I know of, I'm the only guy who ever did that, to your point. No one else did. I would talk about when you're in a poor neighborhood, who are the people who get beat up who aren't gangbangers? It's the old man and the old woman. That's who it is. What if one old woman happened to have a gun and put a bullet in a gangbanger? All of a sudden, it's an equalizer. I was the one bringing this up. I was the one talking about this. I'm with you 100%. So you and I are simpatico on that. Right. 100%. Right. If you want to make the Second Amendment not the second suggestion, you got to have conversations to city folk, not the rural people. They're already on board. This is what I'm saying. We have to fight this stuff everywhere. Okay, we have to fight it everywhere. This is my point. It's that and again, you see it all the time on social media. Oh, well, get out of the cities, get out of here, get out of there, get out of this state, get out of here. Okay, how is that working out exactly? How is it working out in Colorado right now? How's that working out in Arizona right now? Huh? How's it working out in Montana? How's it working out in Oregon? Ask the Oregon ranchers about this. How is that working out in the state of Pennsylvania? Look at what they're doing to Amos Miller. Anyone who's hearing my voice, go look up what the state of Pennsylvania is doing to an Amish farmer. Amos Miller is his name, huh? And they basically told him that he was not allowed to sell the produce that he pulled from the land, from the sweat of his brow, to his customers. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is the people who are doing this to us, not just me, to us as Americans, okay, they have an all of the above strategy. They have a full court press strategy. They're not talking about retreating from anything. They're not talking about getting out of anywhere. And people, and look, God
bless all the people who've called in their support and who sent supporting messages. God bless you. Thank you. But I'm a little bit. I think I'm just about done with the get out of New York thing. I think I'm done with that. All right. First of all, my family is here
all the time, and I tell you the same thing. I'm gonna tell you my story, Dexter. I'm with you.
Yes, sir.
I tell you my story on why I ran for governor. True story. 2016, 2017, I'm pissed off at New York State. I'm considering leaving.
Yes, sir.
And for what I do for my consulting, I need a big city, right? Right. Knows what I do. I need a big city around me, or I can't pay my bills. So I thought I'm gonna move out of here. I'm gonna head down south, and I thought Charlotte. Charlotte's a big city. I could make some money there. There's some big businesses there. I could do that. I thought about moving. So I actually went down there, and I realized I could sell my shoebox of a house here in Queens, buy a mansion in North Carolina, and have less taxes.
Yeah.
And many people will leave. But you know what happened? Dexter, I got mad. I said, why do I have to leave my state where I'm born, where I have my family, where I have my friends, where I have my business? Why do I? Because my state sucks? No. I'm going to go back. I'm going to run for governor. I'm going to win. And I'm going to fix it. Now, that didn't happen. That did not go as planned. However, that was the reason I went back to go run. And then when I ran in 2018, I saw how corrupt and how broken this system was. So I got angrier. So I ran again in 2022. And then when they sued me off the ballot then, people thought you should leave. Now I'm thinking about running for mayor next year. They thought they can get rid of me. They thought they could, but I'm still coming back. I'm still coming back.
Right.
I didn't tell you that, but I may run for mayor next year. I'm actually thinking about it now.
Good.
I might do that too. Anyway, so I'm with you, my friend. I'm not leaving either.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I'm not saying anyone, if you have family and you feel you need to leave somewhere with your family, by all means. I'm just talking about a conservative mindset, right? A mindset among conservative people, apparently conservative people, that that people who live in cities don't matter. These are American cities. If we're Americans, if we're serious about this republic, if we're Americans, then we have to fight for the territory. And again, retreat is not a strategy. Look, I happen to be a big fan of Winston Churchill. My grandfather was the one who told me about Winston Churchill. He would recite some of the speeches. And there was a speech Churchill gave to the British people after Dunkirk. Okay? Yep. And the speech was, I'm not going to try to replicate it here, but it was something to the effect that, listen, we pulled that off, but that was an evacuation. That was a retreat. Okay. Yep. Wars are not won by evacuations. Yeah.
I would say you cannot win a war on defensive.
You can't win a war. You can't win a war. We've been playing defense as conservatives and expecting to win something. And the opponent is playing offense. What are you doing? Right? So this is the thing. And another thing, I have to say this, because I'm so grateful to you, Larry, for giving me a platform, but I'd feel remiss if I didn't say this out loud, okay, is that I am a conservative, not because I left the left and started listening to Fox News, okay? I'm a conservative because I grew up in working class Black America. You understand what I'm saying? I am a conservative because I grew up in working class Black America, okay? I grew up with people who were fanatical about hitting the books. I grew up with people who were fanatical about you better make sure you go out there and you walk right and you talk right because you're representing us. I grew up with people who would slap the black off you. I went to St. Albans Congregational Church over there on Merrick Boulevard. Thank you. I grew up with people who would slap the black off you if you look at them wrong. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm a little bit done with the crime porn. Okay, it's like we have a problem with crime in our cities. This is true. Okay, but we also have a normal person, a reasonable person would look and say, well, this shows that liberal progressive governance, that statist governance, is a dismal failure. But somehow our heathen blood worshiper brethren have decided to go with some kind of weird, creepy eugenicist, Darwinist argument about how it's all the genes. So anyway, I'll cut off there. But all I'm saying is that this is an example of the kinds, like what's happening to me. Let me put it more succinctly. What is happening to me will happen to you.
Yes. Unless
we fight these people everywhere. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to care about me. You don't have to like me. Okay.
That's how it is. Here. I say this all the time. People say, Larry, why the hell do you stay in New York? They tell all the time, why do you stay in New York? And I say, because someone's got to fight him. Someone's got to be in the front line.
Someone's got to fight him.
So I'm the Marine. I'll be in the front line, right? And here's the next part. Well, Larry, why do I care about New York? Because it's coming to you.
It's coming to you, right? Right. You don't have to care about me, right?
It's coming to you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's coming. It's coming. And again, we've seen it. We've seen this. We're seeing it in Pennsylvania. We're seeing it in Arizona. Yep. We're seeing it in Colorado. We're seeing it all over the country. So this is not so again, when you have a all hands on deck mentality, when you have a full court press mentality, you understand when there has been an incursion, and you're like, how will we deal with this incursion? But if you have a mentality of retreat, then you don't see it as an incursion. You're like, oh, well, I'm not going to go there then. Don't get anything on me. Okay, well, listen, if that's your strategy, if that's your plan, okay. But I'm telling you that the adversary does not have that plan. The adversary wants it all of it. Yeah? 100%. So people need to get on the stick with this because, again, forget about me for a second. It's not a personal matter, right? This is about the law of the land. And if judges in some places think they can get away with it, then look at New Mexico, for example. Here you have a governor who said, you know something? I'm just going to turn off the Second Amendment. I'm just going to, flip a switch. I mean, okay, this New Mexico we're talking about.
When I said it was the second suggestion.
That's
what it is. It's the second suggestion.
Right.
That's all it is.
So this is a problem. This is a problem. Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
So anyway, Tim says, hey, Larry, tell Dexter I'm a libertarian because of you. It's my fault. I did it. It's my fault. I brought too many people over. It's my fault. Mm-hmm. Gene says, I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I know you're right. That's why I follow Larry Sharpe. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Gene. I do appreciate that. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And then says, people often ask why I run for office. All I can say is if I'm not going to fight for what's right, who will?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Ken. Yes, absolutely. I met Ken many times. So, yes, 100%. He's absolutely right. So if I could do one, let me talk to the audience if I could. Guys, if you're watching, please click that like button. We're talking about 2A. So YouTube is going to shut down my algorithm. So is Twitter. They're all going to shut it down. So please click the like button. It does matter. If you are watching on Twitter, please retweet this so it can keep going. It does matter. Please, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, why do you hate Dexter? I don't understand. What do he do to you? Subscribe. Subscribe, you loser. Subscribe already. Subscribe. All right? Or I'm coming to your house like the SWAT team. So go ahead. Subscribe. It's important. If you want your chat to go to the front, you can super chat me. I'm happy to have that happen. But more than anything, please head on over to givesendgo.com/dtaylor_2A_legal. The link is in the Facebook page and on the YouTube page. And throw this man some money. He is about to go through, he's in the process of going through the process, which is the punishment. That's the point. He's going through the process, which is the punishment, and he is prepared to do it. So we have to support him. So throw him a couple bucks, whatever that is. Please do that. Do that now. If you tell me you support the 2A and you don't do it, you are a liar. Don't do that. I want you to be a liar. So give him some money. It does matter. Every little bit counts. $10. It's fine. If you can throw 100, 200, do it if you got it. If you don't got it, 10, 15 to do. Whatever you could do, every little bit counts. He's got to go through this. And I'm telling you, this is the most important piece. And when you tell me if I'm wrong here, if we actually win this thing, it is going to change New York State. Am I right?
It's going to change. It's going to change. It's going to change the United States, but certainly, definitely will change New York State. Yes, it will change the face of so-called gun control all over. Yes,
this case is in Brooklyn.
Yep.
Is that in and of itself is wild because they did not expect to see someone like Dexter, in handcuffs, and we just add this guy didn't hide anything. He's buying stuff off Amazon, right? So he's not like sending it to different locations, sending runners to pick up stuff, gathering things, all coming to his home in Brooklyn.
Right. All my weapons were in the same place, by the way. All the weapons were in one place. All my tools were in my workshop. There was no go on. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's just this is the very opposite of a criminal intent. But in New York State, if you possess, you are possessing with an intent to use unlawfully.
I tell people all the time that just if you have a gun in New York State, you are by default a violent felon.
Yeah. And
people don't believe me. But I say, no, just having it. You don't do anything with it. You are by default a violent felon in the eyes of New York State. So yes, Paula says, just sent Dexter a few bucks. There we go. Guys, follow Paula.
God bless. Right? God bless you, Paula. Thank you.
Follow Paula. Every little bit counts. Please do that. It does matter. And Shelly tells me, Shelly, thank you. You're the best. Remember, Shelly says, comment after. Once this show is over, guys, do me a favor. Come back on and comment. Why? YouTube loves that. So once this live is over, come back and just put a little comment. I will watch it. I'll comment. I'm above Dexter for him to comment too. So he'll comment too. He'll put some likes on. We'll do some back and forth. It is important. Please do it once this live is over. And speaking of a live being over, what did I miss, Dexter? Before we wrap this up, is something I missed?
Well, not necessarily about my case, but I'd like to point something out because we're talking about victory. We're talking about getting a win. Okay, well, it's possible to get a win in court, right? But it's also possible to get to win this battle, right? Outside of court. What do I mean by that? Well, look, we don't necessarily expect. I think Vanu and I are both very clear-eyed about the unlikelihood of the state of New York having some kind of road to Damascus moment of
right.
Legal enlightenment, right? The
right.
scales are not going to, the scales of justice are not going to fall from their eyes. Okay, now,
the attorney is in St. Paul, so
right? Exactly, exactly, right? But I'd like to draw people's attention to another case that happened in New York, a case that actually involved an incident of self-defense when an old man named Jose Alba defended himself against a violent criminal in his place of work. Now, the state of New York decided to charge this man who defended himself, okay, with manslaughter. Yeah. Now, what happened? They didn't go to. They dropped the case. They dropped the charges.
They did.
Now, he spent some time in Rikers just like I did, but what happened was enough people made a big fuss in New York City that the Democrats said, "Oh, this isn't a good look. We really don't want to be doing this." Okay, I submit
earlier.
Pardon me.
He brought it up.
Yes, right, exactly. Yeah, there you go. Right. So that's why it's so important for more people to spread the word about this case, to talk about this case, to get myself and Vanu in front of hot microphones to talk about this case and to spread the word. Because again, we are in an election year. I personally am of no political affiliation. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican, but I'm not stupid. I know how these things work. I have just told you you're a
libertarian, so now you are done. I've deemed it so. It's done.
You need to come and join the foundation this side. You'll like us. But you know what I'm saying? It's like if attention matters. In other words, the optics of this case are bad, but that presupposes that people are looking.
Correct.
And so the more people look, the more people make a fuss, the more it is possible, at least, if not likely, that the powers that be will say, we grabbed the wrong end of the dragon on this one, and we need to back off.
I completely agree. Joe brings up the idea of jury nullification. Could also happen. It's possible.
Dow says win by changing culture. Can I address that for a second?
Yeah, sure, absolutely, yeah.
Just we're not allowed to argue that at all.
Yeah, of course. It's yes. But for those of you who don't live in New York,
you can't argue.
Yeah.
Jury nullification.
For those of you who don't live in New York, some of you will go nuts when you hear this. The judges literally say you can't do jury nullification in New York. They tell you that. They're like, that doesn't matter. You can't do it. And I know some of you live outside New York say, wait a minute, that's unconstitutional. Yes, I believe so. Clearly, judges do not. But I believe that's true. I'm not a judge, though, so it doesn't matter what I think. But I agree with you. Yes, I think that's true. Byron takes a quick joke. He goes, Second Amendment, afuela. All right, Kathy Hogan, throw it away, get rid of it. That's what he thinks. I think that's kind of funny. So, all right, guys, I want to say thank you so much. Oh, I'm sorry, Vin, did I miss something before we go?
No, you guys, you did great, Larry. Thank you. You're obviously, you're here to me. Dexter is the most unique client I've had in 25 years of total practice. And it's never seen a guy with so much conviction, so wrongly being pushed. But what makes Dexter different, he's got the will. He needs the resources, but he's got the will to fight. And he's willing to do that. And I can see, and sometimes we just talk and no way, he's not trying to be a martyr. He doesn't want to be a martyr.
The best kind of martyr is the guy who doesn't want to be the martyr. It's the best kind of martyr, the guy who doesn't want to be one, 100%. Guys, thank you so much. And I want to tell my audience, head over, givesendgo.com. throw a couple bucks that way. The link is in both in on the Facebook page and on a YouTube page. If you're watching the one, go there, give a couple bucks. I'm gonna do it right now after this. I'm gonna go do it myself too, so you can see my name there. So don't think it's just me just telling you to do stuff. I always tell you, I can't or ask you to do something unless I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna ask you to do it too. Head over there, throw them some money. It does matter. It is important. Please do that, guys. I will see you all very soon. Have a great weekend. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Larry.